Hello guys, let's have a look at the merchant guide and the rules it contains to run a trading campaign. The merchant guide is available on Drive-Thru RPG and I update the file from time to time, adding stuff, correcting errors and so on. So, some people like to run trading campaign. I have run trading campaigns, but we need to understand the basic principle on how to run a trading campaign with or without the merchant guide. Running a trading campaign means that your character or your characters travel your campaign setting from market to market. They buy and sell trade goods from one place to another place. That is how traditionally merchants, traders earn money and made big profit, especially in the past. So the list you need to run a trading campaign is a list of trade goods, a list of markets. Well, not just a list of markets. You need to determine, you need to decide every marketplace what kind of goods have or have not. Sometimes they are available, sometimes they are not. Then you need price fluctuation. Without price fluctuation, you do not have trade, because if prices are always fixed, then there is no exchange. It is true that sometimes you can sell stuff that are not available in another market, but here we are talking about trading any trade good available. This is what the merchant guide does. So let's have a look. Generate a trade node. In this chapter you see how you can give life to a trade node. What does it mean? For example, if in your campaign setting, your personal campaign setting, you have a city, a town, a hamlet, a village, you need to determine what kind of trade goods are produced there. What kind of trade goods are more expensive and what are less expensive. This is basically what generating a trade node means. Now, every trade node may have one or more favorite trade goods. It depends on the size of the trade node. Of course, if you don't want to generate randomly a trade node, you can decide on your own that that specific city has those specific favorite trade goods. Here you have a table with the settlement favorite goods or favorite trade goods. Now I use the word settlement to define any area or where people gather and live. Usually a settlement is of varying size, and in this table you can roll a dice with 100 faces and determine randomly what trade goods is the favorite one. Settlement sites. Now the settlement sites, these link to the price modifier, or that means the settlement sites influences the final price of a good. As a general rule, a large settlement like a metropolis or a large city, they have positive price modifier. Smaller settlement have negative price modifiers because prices are usually lower. This is not an absolute rule, this is just a general idea. Now, buying and selling traded goods. In this chapter, you see how you can buy and sell. What does it mean? You buy and sell trade goods by sealing contracts. Okay, and again, every settlement, so every trade node, has a limited number of contracts. You cannot just arrive at a trade node and decide to buy everything. You need to find someone in general who is willing to sell or buy what you have. Okay, so it is also possible that nothing is available for you to buy. It doesn't mean, consider that when you buy trade goods as a merchant, you do not go to the emporium and buy some stuff, then you move the stuff to the next settlement and you sell it. No, because the emporium does not sell wholesale. According to the merchant guy, if you arrive to a settlement, you need to find someone who is selling loads of stuff. Okay, so for example, let's say a Torp, the smaller settlement you can have, with a population of 21 or less. This is just a standard usage. Okay, in a Torp you have 2d4 minus 6 available contracts, so it is very highly possible that in a Torp you don't find anyone willing to sell or buy something. The matter is different when you are in a large city, or for example, in a large city you usually always find someone willing to seal a deal. In a large city you have 1d8 plus 1 contract potentially available. So if you want, for example, if you are in a hamlet a little bit larger than a Torp, a hamlet have 2d4 minus 5 available contracts when you arrive with your caravan. Does it mean that forever you will never find someone? No, because every week you can roll again that number. It means that you wait for someone who is there. The advantage is that if you buy in a hamlet, you have a price modifier that is negative. So a negative price modifier lowers the price. Now, let's talk about what trade goods are available on the merchant guide. I have made 3 categories. The first one is drinks, edible, and other stuff. Keep in mind, every trade goods comes with a name that identifies the specific trade good. The price, which is expressed in coins for liter, for pound, it depends on the unit of measurement. Then you have the load, that means what kind of container, the packaging. What is the packaging? For beer, for example, is a barrel. For fruit, they come in baskets. Flour comes in sack. Fur is usually packaged as belts. Okay, so this is the first list of trade goods available: drinks, edible, and other stuff. Then you have luxury, materials in generals, and other stuff. In these categories falls, for example, cotton, furniture, glassware, marble, porcelain, metals, and so on. The third category is creatures, livestock, mounts, and slaves. So living beings. Again, here is also stated the cost of upkeep for each creature, livestock, or mounts per day. Of course, if you are shipping, if you are moving goods that are, for example, livestock, you have to pay, or you have to pay in advance something, because during the journey to reach another trade node where supposedly you may try to sell your shipping, well, you have to feed, because they are living creatures. You have to feed them because they are living creatures. And here we comes to price fluctuation. Okay, I divided price fluctuation into three categories, which are the same categories of trade goods. So I decided that price fluctuation is not the same for every trade good, for every category. Drink, edibles, and other stuff, which are common goods, have a flattened price fluctuation. Okay, that's why you roll 4d4 to determine the price fluctuation. For example, this is based on statistical distribution according to a Gaussian, a Bell distribution. Maybe you know that as a Bell distribution. Someone calls it Gaussian distribution. So, for example, you roll 4d4. If you roll 11 or 12, it means that if you roll 11, you apply 110% of the base price. So if something costs 1 gold piece, 100 gold piece, 200 gold piece, and you are buying, and you roll 11 on 44, it means that you are paying 110%. It means 220, 120, or 1 gold and 1 silver. If you run, for example, if you roll 16, 160%. This is just for drink, edibles, and other stuff. Now, if you are talking about luxury materials and other stuff, the price fluctuation is 3d6. It means that the bell, the distribution bell, is a bit more variable. Okay? Then, for creature, livestock, mounts, and slaves, you roll 2d10. And again, once you apply the price fluctuation to the base price, again, you then apply the price modifier for the settlement sites. So the settlement sites can rise or lower the final price. Well, trade deals is just, it's something that I want to expand later. Here I just list 3 kind of trade deals: exclusivity deal, supply deal, development deal. This is something, it is explained, but it is something that I will expand later. Okay, movement and terrains. Here it's quite intuitive. You can apply your own rules if you want, but here I am splitting the terrains into normal, rugged, and difficult. This is because you can't move the same way on every kind of terrain. For example, a normal terrain, you have, in a normal terrain you have standard speed. In a rough terrain you have half speed, and here I list the kind of terrain. Difficult terrain, you move at a quarter speed. Climate and weather. This is another section when I created a weather generator, basically divided for each kind of climate: Arctic, temperate, subtropical, tropical, and equatorial. Now about subtropical. Subtropical is a type of climate that exists on Earth due to specific reasons. Subtropical occurs, for example, in the Mediterranean Sea and in others areas that are a bit weird according to the general distribution of weather. It is also possible that your campaign setting doesn't have an Arctic climate, or it doesn't have a temperate climate. That depends on your campaign setting. If you play, for example, just an example, if you take Dark Sun campaign setting from Advanced Dungeon Dragons 2nd edition, you basically have everywhere an equatorial climate. You do not have any Arctic climate. Weather generator. In the weather generator, I consider for each climate some different atmospheric events. Like in Arctic weather, for example, you have blizzard, and other stuff. In this table you can generate the weather. Every atmospheric phenomena has its own effect on the caravan. Many times they are dangerous effects, but you can use this weather generator for other purposes. It means that you can take it and use it for no matter you want, for whatever you want. Okay, typhoon. Animals and vehicles. Okay. Here, if you want to build your own caravan, you need animals that moves your vehicles. So here I prepared a list of animals. Every animal comes with a price, speed expressed in miles per day, carrying capacity. Carrying capacity mean how much in weight trade goods I can move with that specific beast. Pulling capacity means what happens if I decide to buy a vehicle, stick it to the animal, and then move my stuff. Of course, pulling capacity is higher than carrying capacity, because moving something on a chart with wheels make things easier. Okay, sights. I specify the sights of the animal. These are all stuff taken from the monster manuals. Nothing special. Upkeep. Every animal must be fed, properly fed. The upkeep is expressed in copper piece. Then, just to complete the table, I add also the armor class and the hit dice. Here I make the list of every animal. I introduce also the specialists required to handle the specific. Some animals are easy to tame, others are not, and they require a specialist. In some case, I also state if the beast, the animal, has a favorite terrain. Yes, I added many exotic animals also. Lizard giant, mammoth, rhinoceros. Land vehicles. Well, I added the most common vehicles: cart, carriage, slate. If you are moving on a specific terrain, light wagon, medium wagon, heavy wagon, and palace wagon. I inspired myself on palace wagon by reading the Dark Sun campaign setting. In Dark Sun there are these big wagons, really big, huge, that actually are move whole clans of traders from city to city. If you read something about something written by Troy Denning, I think the Crimson Legend, with the first of the series of book, something like that appears. Water vehicles, okay, if you move on water you need something that float at least, so you have this list of water vehicles, which are barge, canoe, caravel, cargo ship, cog, etc, etc. Every water vehicle comes with price, capacity, speed, armor class. I introduce also the concept of hardness. You have hit point, okay, how resistant, how much damage it can take. Then you have squares. It means I give you a general idea of what the size of the vehicle is. The crew, and the crew means the amount of crew members you need to move that ship. Passengers, just in case you want to move people instead of goods. When I say passenger, it includes free citizens, slaves, and other stuff, but they are humanoids usually. The standard is a medium-sized humanoid. Well, also in the vehicles, in the land vehicles, I do the same. I state clearly what is the crew required, the minimum crew required to move the vehicle, and if you can take passengers. Henchman and specialists, this is another, well, almost every section can be expanded here, but in Henchman and specialists I plan to expand it further. So I introduce non-player characters like the accountant, the beastmaster, the broker, the carpenter, just the carpenter to repair stuff just in case your caravan is facing problems, cartographer to speed up the movement, a driver, and so on. The healer, because when you travel for many days you need something to take care of your wounds. Ship officer, sailor. And here again we have the merchant character class. This is the basic if you want to start to run a merchant character class. Now I have been asked by one purchaser the initial money, how many gold piece does a merchant character class has. Here I suggest to use your own rules. You can fix it by comparing it to any other character class. The standard could be 100 gold piece, for example, or you can run randomly. But this is just the basic. You can use it, you can expand it, you can change it, you can tweak it. Some new feats, but just related to the merchant character class. Now, gaining experience, here I just present a list of instances where you can see how a merchant gain experience points. The base is you gain 1 experience point for every 100 gold pieces of trade goods sold. So it is not about the profit, it is just about selling the same 1 XP every 100 gold piece of trade goods bought. Some skills for the merchant. Random events. Okay, I did this instead of doing an encounter table. 99% of you, I suppose, have already built their own encounter table tuned to the campaign setting they are playing. So here I just introduce random events. It means random events, things that happens in a specific area, in a specific geographic area. That's why random events are split into local events, regional events, continental events. Sometimes local events may trigger regional events. So you have a sort of cascade effect sometimes. You need just to have a look, but every event produce an effect. Okay, produce an effect on prices of specific trade goods, or sometimes on every trade goods. Produce effects in terms of other things that can happen, so they can trigger other events, as I said, and they may also trigger encounters. Again, in this table you have local events, regional events, continental events. You roll. You do not roll every day. You roll every. You need to wait a bit, some days, before you roll a local events or regional events, for example. It is not something that occurs every day. However, the Dungeon Master has the final word. And here I just list the events and what each event do. I think it's all. Okay, natural wonders, special play. This is another section that I may want to expand in the future, where I just described natural wonders inspired on true plays that exist on Earth. Imagine a merchant who travel all over your homebrew world. They may encounter, they may discover special places that no one has ever seen. Here you have a sort of encounter table. You just need here each encounter can trigger other conditions. Sometimes can trigger not only just creatures, can trigger places and special things. So I decided to make some change in the concept of encounters. So you can encounter a frozen caravan. You can also encounter a frozen volcano, no? And this frozen volcano has a specific chance of triggering another type of encounter. Okay, I almost forgot. The encounters depend on the type of terrain, so it is not the same for all. There are things that you can encounter in coastal waters, but that you cannot encounter in tundra, for example. Where possible, I already placed a hyperlink that shows you something more. For example, on my blog, something more details about a creature, for example, for a monster. Of course, the encounters are divided by terrain, but also by climate. I forgot about that. I forgot to say. Subtropical and tropical encounters. So as I said, so for example, here you have archaeological site. You earn experience as a caravan when you make an encounter. For example, the archaeological site has a 15% chance of triggering the encounter Stirge, and a 10% chance of triggering the encounter Supernatural Fog. Of course, nothing stops you by accommodating the encounter for your own goals. Okay, this must be clear. Here I am just suggesting what could happen, but if, for example, you have a one shot about an archaeological site, or something you prepared in the past about an archaeological site, just use it. No, It will be interesting to see this caravan of merchants, this party of merchants, exploring an archaeological site and discovering valuable stuff. Well, the list is a bit large. I think it's all. Yes, the last chapter is the one, the encounters. Well, here I suggest some. I have some suggested book if you want, but they are not. You are not forced to buy them. They are stuff. This is stuff from AD&D second edition. So, thanks for listening. If you have any doubt, you can ask me, and I will answer with a video or something, or I will write you an answer. See you.